Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the WA Running Podcast as Chris and I record on Monday, the 3rd of February, 2025. Hopefully, you're all surviving another week of moist 30 to 40 degree runs or recording those context photos on your treaty runs this week. Happy Lunar New Year to those that celebrate Chinese New Year as we celebrate the Year of the Snake, where I saw a couple of Year of the Brown Snake references in this week's Strava activities. This week we had results from the Twilight Peninsula Run at the Marathon Club yesterday on Sunday, WA performances from the Marugame Half before previewing the Busso Bay Run this coming Saturday. In this week's interview, we were fortunate enough to talk to the very passionate Sam Simsek from the Running Centre on all things shoes, running, and the time he heard someone's hamstring snap. And finally, we celebrate the unusual and at times questionable behaviours of our weapons of warp. Speaking of the Year of the Brown Snake, across my screen is my co-host who knows a thing or two about brown snakes, Chris the Metronome Shaw. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Simon. No brown snakes this week for me, so kept it all in-house.
Very good.
Yeah.
How's your week been?
Been great. I think yesterday's run was fantastic down at the Marathon Club. Enjoyed that. Had a good week of training and, excited to share Sam's interview with the listeners.
Beautiful. Well, let's get straight into it. So how was your training week this last week?
Clocked 115 Ks this week, so ramping up toward the Bunbury Half, I guess. Monday, it was public holiday, wasn't it? So there was a few of the Stride King Run Club guys got down to the river and had a little loop there for 60 minutes or so. Tuesday, did my first ever Mona. I don't think I underestimated. I think I just probably should have paced myself a little better in the first couple of reps. Because when you try to, I was trying to target about 5.5 Ks, and I ended up 5.4 or something. So pretty close, but yeah, I think I could probably execute it better next time. In the afternoon, I did 4x500 meter jog with Henry. Wednesday did 60 minutes in the morning. Thursday was 4x8 minutes threshold, which I was very happy with, given it was warm, and I just felt like for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to feel pretty fit. So that was a great session. Friday, 80 minutes in the morning, and then a little gym session in the afternoon. Saturday, got out about 3 o'clock for another 50 minutes. And then Sunday, had a long run with Ordwin and Alex Vickery around Kings Park. It had if you look at the Strava map, it's a bit of a spider web, kind of explored every nook and cranny, as Devlin Chiffings mentioned. So, it was more sand than I remember in some of those paths, which wasn't great. But for the most part, we targeted a few hills, and it was good. And then in the evening, we had the Twilight Run, as we said earlier, and Henry ran with me, and he ran exceptionally well. I'm very happy with him.
Yeah, I think performance of the night, I reckon. There's a bit of tears in the end, so you must have meant that he worked pretty hard towards the end, pushed by Daddy there.
Yeah, I think it was his first time running 5K non-stop, and I had said to him, we'll try and run like 32, 33 minutes, and he ended up running 31:01 or 31:02. So, really impressive for a 7-year-old who really only started running properly a couple of 2 or 3 months ago, and a little kick at the end to finish things off with friends and family cheering him on. It was great. How was your week, mate?
Get into it. So I've only halved your mileage this week, so barely reached 50 Ks. I think it's been a rough couple of weeks, I think, for my running. You know what? I have felt tired ever since coming back from Japan, and I don't know if it's just general fatigue that I've not really, caught up on sleep and rest, and straight back into works, and work's been pretty hectic the last couple of weeks. So this week's my final week acting in the exec role. So I'm hoping that after this week it subsides a little bit, but I'm already preparing my excuses for my poor performance at yesterday's Peninsula Run, as you can tell. No, look, I think, pretty tiring week. So following on from my car issues of last week, had 45 minutes on that public holiday, so I couldn't go down do the river loop with you fellas on Monday. Tuesday was the continuation of that Tuesday session that I did the previous week, where you absolutely rinse yourself for 10 minutes and then you do 5 by 1 minutes. So only one vomit this time. So so progress. I think. I think it was still pretty warm on that Tuesday from memory. So pretty tough session there on the Tuesday evening. Wednesday's a rest, and then Thursday was a bit of a tune-up. So Tina likes to do a 3 by 3 minute session that kind of is a bit of a tune-up in the lead up to a race. So I did that down in Gallop with our mate Lan, who was over from Melbourne. And then our security detail Bond was also there at Gallop as well. He was doing, I think, 4 by 5 minute reps at his threshold pace. So once I did my 3 by 3 minutes, I helped Bon along there. I took Bon down to Vomit Town, so he had a couple of yaks. So he was working pretty hard there. I think it started to get a bit warm as the morning progressed there. On Friday, I was at work and, finished work early, so managed to squeeze in a 40-ish minute run with Perich, our mate down at Hyde Park, so did a couple of loops there. Yeah, look, I think waking up on Sunday morning, I was absolutely buggered, and I had been feeling pretty buggered the whole week, so I knew the PB might not be coming, and I think the warm weather kind of continued for most of the day, so it was a bit of a try and see, and I think after 500 meters, I was already cooking. So, so although I hit 3:35 in the first K, as you could see from my splits, there it was a slow progression in 3:39s, 3:50s, 3:54s, and I gave a final push at the end for 3:49. But effectively, my 10K effort towards the end felt like VO2 for me. So
right.
So look, I could blame on Smirelli, but unfortunately, he did a pretty good job shielding the wind for the most part. But yeah, I think it got too hard too early, and I think it wasn't my week, and definitely wasn't my day. So that's it for my Project 5K, unfortunately, but that's okay. I think I'm starting the half marathon type block now, and I think for me, the mileage is key for me to potentially do a 5K time trial in the future. So
true.
And then I think it's going to get cooler as well. So I've put a lot of effort into these 5K type workouts for the last couple of months. So hopefully it pays dividends later this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got a lot of supportive messages from people on Strava as well yesterday, which was nice to see from all corners of Strava. So, sometimes these things happen when you're least expecting them. I think maybe Mike might have said that. So, it's it'll be good to take your mind off it for a little while, I think, and just kind of knuckle down and build some mileage and see what happens. If Tina's hosting those time trials every 4 weeks, then there's going to be plenty of opportunities.
I think so as well. And I think now that it's not the main focus, I won't overthink it and stress over it. So
exactly.
I think we've done a lot of races over the last couple of months anyway. So it'd be good to just stick to training for the next couple of months. So I've got the Secret Rockers run sort of in the second Sunday of March, I think. And after that, I don't plan on racing anything until Gold Coast. So it'll be good to just concentrate on training and not sort of think about races, that sort of thing. Is Bunbury Half your main focus now?
Yeah, like as you said, nothing really else in the interim, I don't think, until then. So really, it's just Bunbury and Gold Coast. I mean, I would like to do another 10K at some point, but again, I'm not going to focus on it. And if something comes up, I think there's the Canning River Running Works event in late March, potentially, or mid-March. And I guess the next one's Bridges, but that's probably too close to Bunbury. So, I mean, not fussed. We'll kind of just pick things up as they go. Maybe there's an opportunity between Bunbury and Gold Coast to run a quick one.
Beautiful.
But let's just see what happens, and see. I'm just looking forward to building mileage. That's my favorite part of running, is just kind of the process of building yourself up and dismantling yourself as well until you're
Yeah.
so exhausted that you're about to break, and then you kind of taper and you feel $1 million. So that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, that sounds good. I will comment that Linda and Maddie also were at the Twilight Peninsula Run yesterday, so there was another opportunity for them to bicker about how much time we take up doing these podcasts. So anything, any follow up from your end after yesterday?
No, nothing post yesterday. There's plenty of stuff over the weekend though. So yeah, it's best saved for offline, I reckon, that discussion.
I think so. I think so. We won't mention it. I know Linda listens to this episode intently to make sure that we're not talking too much shit. So
yeah,
we'll leave it at that. All right, let's get straight into the results then. So the Peninsula Run was on yesterday. What were some of the results?
Yeah, sure. So we had 5K and 10K. We'll start with the 5. In the women's, we had Emma Thorpe winning in 22:12 and Lily Edwards in 22:51 and Emma Axt Conahan in 23:15. In the men's, we had Jack Sirrett in 15:51. I think that was a 10K effort for Jack, so as ahead of Busso next week. So that's exciting to see as to what that 10K might look like for him next week. In second, we had 15-year-old Duku Jansuk in 16:22 and Jack Wills in 16:27. In the women's 10K, we had Catherine Stockwell finishing in 41:05, followed by Claudia Secchi in 43 flat, and then Vanessa Bull in 43:25. In the men's 10K, we had Harry Lovell finishing in 35 minutes 12, followed by Paul Beckers. I think number one or number 2 ticket holder, I think Matt used to call him. So
I think it was the number 1 ticket holder.
yeah, okay. Paul Beckers in 35:24, followed by Daniel Russo in 36:24. And Daniel's only 15 years old, so that's absolutely scorching.
How'd you find the event? Because it was the first time that it was a 5 p.m. start. It's usually on a Sunday morning. How'd you find the 5 p.m. Start time?
Probably a touch warm still, but in terms of getting families down, 5 p.m. is probably a good time. Means it's not dinner time quite yet. Because we parked at the campfield, had a run, and then went straight back to the campfield and had a feed. So, yeah, no, I think it was great. The breeze was in, so it did make running slightly difficult. But I think they had barbecue on, and yeah, a lot of people stuck around from what I saw. So that was good. I think they should do it more often. I think they should have more than one every year. Kind of in the evening would be great. How about you?
Yeah, agree. Like I enjoyed the afternoon, though. Do wonder whether or not a 6 p.m. start would be ideal because it's still pretty light up until 7:30 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether or not a 6 p.m. would be a little bit cooler to make the conditions slightly more favourable.
True.
It was quite windy, particularly as you were going through the bridge. But yeah, no, overall it was quite good. Like you said, I think more of these events would be pretty cool. I think they canned the New Year's Eve run last year or the year before.
Yeah.
That would have been a good event at the time. So I think if they converted some of these smaller events to an evening run, I think you'll definitely get more families taking part. I wasn't expecting there to be so many people because we did see on Strava a lot of people doing their long runs, but I think we got a different demographic of runners last night, which was cool.
Yeah, a lot of kids, which was great. A couple of the guys that we raced against in the 3K, last December were there and running a lot quicker 5Ks than we can run. So it's good to see.
Yeah, definitely. At least the summer of speed worked for some people, not for myself. Yeah.
I mean, when you're less than half our age, it probably helps.
Yeah, no. Let's blame it on age. It was good to see Nick John Ireland on the bike, and also forgetting that he was back in Perth, telling everyone to stay on the right instead of left. So that was good to see. Now, you said Jack Sirrett was perhaps only going at 10K pace, but he did run his last K in 3:06, and maybe he did start at 10K effort, but I don't think he was running 10K effort at the end.
Yeah, maybe not.
I think he was working a little bit too hard to get the win there. So look, he looks like he's in good form. Possibly the favourite in the 10K for the Busso Bay Run. So
for sure.
and I think his biggest win over the weekend was getting a kudos from the king of all Jacks, Jack Rayner. I think he probably preferred that than getting the win himself. So good on you, Jack. Shall we move on to the Marugame Half Marathon?
Yeah, for sure. So we've been given a beautiful rundown here by our good friend and oracle, David Nguyen, aka Stride King. We've got a few results from some Australians, but also some WA reps that went over there. So in the women's, Izzy Bat Doyle broke the national record. That's Karen McCann's national record from back in 2000. She ran 107.17, taking 30 seconds off of that, which is rapid, and I think it's probably been a long time coming. We've talked about Izzy potentially breaking the marathon record couple of months ago and at Valencia, but I'm sure that's not far away. We had in the men's, so I think Izzy finished third overall, if I'm not mistaken. But David hasn't established that for me here, so I'm going to call him out on that. The winner of the men's was Alex Munoz, finishing in 59.16. And Andy Buchanan finished in seventh with 1 hour 28 seconds. Haftu Strinsos in finishing in 1 hour 36 seconds. And then I think we had Brett Robinson further back in 101.58. But it looks like he's coming back from his injury that he had last year. He's improved his time at Melbourne by about 5 or 6 minutes, so that's great to see. In the WA reps, we had Owen Smith finishing in 107.43, Ryan Greenwood in 107.38, and Natalia Pond in 123.22. And the big call is Dean Menzies went over there and had a crack for a PB and missed out by only 8 seconds, unfortunately. I think he'd run 65 flat for his PB, and it was 65.08. So yeah, I'm sure Dean's, probably pretty happy with the performance, but so close yet so far away.
Yeah, so close. No, good work to all our WA runners there. It seems like every single Australian went down there to race, so it must be absolutely beautiful conditions to hit a PB there.
Yeah, it looked like Dean was probably rubbing shoulders with some of the, kind of, I guess you call them big dogs, in a couple of packs there for a while. So, and then maybe some of those guys got away from him toward the end. But it was, awesome to see photos of him kind of in packs with elite men. And, he is elite. So kudos to him.
Beautiful. All right, let's get on to the preview for the Busso Bay Run. So that's on Saturday, and it starts at 5:30 with the marathon. Before the half marathon starts at 6:30, and 6:45 for the 10K and the 5K. We've noted that there's a slight diversion in the half marathon and marathon routes due to some path upgrades between Dolphin Road Boat Ramp and the Mandalay Holiday Park. So there will be some marshals there directing runners onto the road instead. Hopefully that means that you'll actually run the half marathon distance and marathon distance. I don't know. It might not be certified, but hopefully you'll hit your 21.1 or your 42.2. We'll see this weekend on everyone's Strava to see what your distances are.
Yeah, and if it's long, Simon, I guess you could always just stop your watch, before the finish.
Yeah, Strava PB, be a weapon of war. We'll pay close attention to your Strava post this weekend. I did see that on the Busso Runners Club website that they did have a table summarizing the aid stations and where they are. So if you head to the website, you'll see it there. It seems like there's an aid station every 2.5 Ks, it seems.
That's great.
The table shows where the water stops are, electrolytes, and whether or not there's bananas. So very thorough there by the Busso Bay Run organisers. Shall we go into the course PBs?
Yeah, for sure. I just want to quickly note that the bananas don't start till 12.8 kilometers. So you're going to have to hang out for a banana for a little while. But from that point onward, you've got them, every 4 kilometers. So that's good to see.
Cup.
Yeah. All right, so we're talking about course records. Here we go. 5 kilometer course record. The women's is held by Clarissa Herbst from 2018. She ran 17:18. In 2022, the men's record is held by Sam Millerham in time of 14:58. That's rapid. And then 10K. So our very own Sinead Noonan, or Freeberg as she's now known, back in 2023 ran a 34:57. Nick Harmon holds the men's record in 29:36 back in 2019, which is swift. The half marathon distance, Nera Jarab holds the women's record from 2022 in a time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, 42 seconds. Nick Harmon also holding the half marathon record in 2018, so back-to-back years there, 105.54. Wouldn't it be great to hold all 4 records, Simon?
Would be nice. Would be nice. Yeah.
And then, so in the marathon, the women's record is held by Jackie Kellerman from 2023 in a time of 2 hours 51 minutes 16 seconds, and Matt Damassi from last year 2 hours 36:15, which is very quick considering it was like 38 degrees last year at Bustleton.
Yeah, and I think it was running solo for the most part, so that's good mindset training.
Big time
by Matt there. So let's get into the distances. We'll start with the 5K, and I think what we'll do is we'll probably go back and forth in terms of who our picks are across the distances. So we'll start with the 5K. We've got 200 runners there. I think Chris and I had a quick look at the start list, and I think there really is only one standout winner, and I think that's Daniel Big D Smith. He ran 16:27 last year and edging out Kaylin Bennett there. But I think he's going to take the win in the 5K World Championships. What do you reckon?
Yeah, hopefully there's some John Cena motivation involved too. I'd like to see some updates on that. But yeah, that was the standout for sure.
Yeah. Well, unless there is another 15-year-old chasing behind him, I think might not need the John Cena motivation.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think we saw anything in the a familiar name in the women's list, so I think the women's race is up for grabs there. So might be a local person taking the win there, but definitely an open race there in the women's. Let's move on to the 10K.
Yeah, so in the 10K, we've got 500 runners. In the men's, the names we've seen, we've got Matt Damassi mentioned there as the marathon record holder. Henry Morley also there. Apparently it's on the down low, or what?
No, as in we tried to stalk Henry Morley,
right.
and it seems like he's not posted anything on Strava for many years. So
yeah, right.
We
He's one of those guys. Right.
Yeah, we don't know how fast he is. So the only time I was able to pull was 33:46 at the 2022 Freo Running Festival.
Okay, yeah, and then we've got, as we mentioned earlier, Jack Sirrett there, and Kaylin Bennett, the 16-year-old wonderkind. He'll be there racing against some of his older folks. So what do you reckon out of that, Si? Who have you got for the win there?
So I'm tossing up between Matt Damassi, who's my too new sunglasses friend, or Jack Sirrett, who's the Let's Cook Run team.
Where do your allegiances lie? That's the truth.
I do like my sunglasses.
Yeah. You know what would be great to see? Rochelle's running in the women's 10K, and so is opposition leader Libby Metum. But Rochelle, it would be great to see Rochelle and Matt win the 10K, wouldn't it?
It would, actually.
And it was their wedding anniversary today, from all accounts, based on what I saw on Instagram.
I mean, what a present.
Yeah.
Present. Let's go with Matt Damassi and Rochelle for the couple win in the 10K, hey? Maybe Jack. Yeah, comes second after working a bit too hard yesterday.
Yeah, shouldn't have dropped that 3:06 in the 5th.
Yeah, shouldn't have. All right, I think we're all in agreement there for the 10K. I will move on to the half marathon. So did you want to start with the men's?
Yeah, sure. The men's. So we've got 1,000 runners in the half, which is the biggest numbers across all of the distances, which is a lot. I didn't realize it was quite that many, to be honest. But so very popular. In the men's, we've got a few very familiar names there. We've got Carlos Aquino, who's recently joined Rams Running, from what we can tell, and is running very well, running a lot of kilometres. Mackenzie Burgoyne training for a FKT, I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's trying to the bib track
That's right.
record in sort of Easter time.
Yep. So a half marathon's perfect training for that. We got Vlad, of course, probably not tapering at all, but coming along and no doubt sending it. And then Smithy's there, probably with the highest pedigree of those kinds of names. And then we've got the wizard himself, the Bunbury wizard, Zacchaeus Gildersleeve, and Liam Kamudu running, but I think he's pacing, unfortunately, and he's been injured the last couple of weeks, I believe.
So who do you have for the half marathon, the men's?
Well, if Smithy's actually taking it seriously, he's gonna win. There's no doubt in my mind. I think Carlos is a chance for second there, depending on how Vlad's feeling. How many 25% inclines he's done on the treadmill this week, and yeah, I think those will be the top three for me.
Be interesting, right? Because it's whether or not Matt Smith is fit, right?
True. Yeah, I mean, he ran a very good marathon last year in Mexico.
It's true.
It's just I think he had a bit of, from what I heard, a bit of strep throat the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it seems to be on the mend, which is good. Yeah, I think he could probably quite comfortably run under 110, even if he isn't in the
100%.
best shape. Yeah, so if he could potentially, if Carlos can hold on to Matt and get under that 70-minute mark, he'd be stoked, I reckon.
Yeah, and look, Busso is quite flat, so it doesn't really play into Vlad's hands. Yeah, so yeah, maybe Carlos scrapes in second with Vlad very close behind, and I reckon Mackenzie takes fourth place there. I think the biggest question is whether or not Mac improves on his 14 beers from last year's effort.
That's what we all want to see, isn't it?
Yeah, so he might squeeze a podium, but I think the real race is what happens after at the pub there. We'll move on to the women's race, and look, to be honest, it's going to be a Team Tina affair. It's going to be whether or not Kate Baker takes the win or whether Loz French gets one over Kate. So Kate's got a PB of 1 hour 17, which she actually did just recently at the Freo Half last year. And Loz's PB is not too far behind, 1 hour 18 at the 2022 Perth Half. So we've got Sarah Greenwood up amongst it as well. Her PB was last year at the Launceston Half. You've got Cara Loran from the Northern Suburbs running group. We've got Ashley Ritson and we've got Jules Bennett into the mix as well. So I think my pick will have to be Kate. She just races so well, and it's hard not to back Kate. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to see Loz get one over her, but yeah, Kate for me is yeah, like I think we've spoken about her work ethic in the past, and yeah, we're fanboys big time. So, and she's paced you to a couple of time trials in recent weeks. So, I think you've got to pay your dues and take her for the win, surely.
And I don't know whether or not Kate can actually say my last name correctly, but there is on record that Loz calls me Simon Peaham, so it has to be Kate. All right, so we'll move on to the marathon. How about we look at the men's race?
Yeah, so we've got 295 runners here, which is an obscure number given everything else is rounded out to zeros, but assuming there's been five runners that have possibly dropped off there. Now, there's quite a list of names here. I'm going to start with the women's. So we've got Narishka Irvine there. She ran a 3:23 at last year's Bibra Lake Marathon, and I believe she ran a 3:30 at the Busso Marathon last year. She also podiumed last year. I'm not sure if she won. I can't remember. But
I think she podiumed. I think she squeezed into third place.
Yeah, so yeah, I think she was the name that we recognised of the women's. And yeah, she's an absolute machine. She's a weapon. She's got a mindset like no other, and I no doubt that she'll be up there again this year. How about you, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, those 30K treadie runs in the shed there is that's mindset training. So
big time.
Look, she probably doesn't want the pressure of being named as the favourite, but to be honest, she was the only name we saw on the list that could do well. So I think Narishka, you've got the win in the bag.
I think while I read the men's names, Simon, you should get up how many podiums double they're expecting to get in this event. So it'll be good to have the listeners hear that.
Yeah.
In the men's, we've got a few names here. We've got Adam Dolby from the double crew. We've got Jerry Hill. We've got Leo Bayers, John Pence, Michael Bellman, Joel Gray, Nathan Fawkes, Reece Shaw, and Joel Lambert, another one from the double crew. So there's a lot of names there that people will recognise. A lot of PBs in the kind of 240 mark. The probably standout PB there is Jerry Hill with a 233. He ran that last year at the Perth Running Festival. Now, on paper, Jerry's surely got to take the cake, but someone like John Pence on his day could go sub 240 for the first time. And Joel Gray, I mean, he's running some interesting races over the past 12, 18 months that we've had his name come up on the podcast a few times. So I don't know, mate. I reckon Jerry's got it in the bag. If he's got no shirt on, he's definitely winning it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that was his last year's best time, but he has gone under 230 before. So
oh right, okay.
So I think he'll be a standout winner. I reckon Adam Dolby's been training really well. We've been seeing him every Thursday down at Gallup.
Yeah, we always mistake him for someone else, but until he gets closer, and then I realise it's Adam. It's okay. But yeah, he's been training really well. Good numbers on his workouts for sure, and I reckon he'll be on the podium. He'll be a tough one to beat, bar Jerry potentially. So, look, I think it'll be a tight race. Hopefully, we get three within 3 to 5 minutes of each other. But yeah, I mean, have you got those numbers for me there, Simon?
Yeah. So according to El Presidente of the Double Run Club, it seems like the expectation set that we'll have 6 podiums. Men's marathon, 2 positions. Who would that be?
So we're saying we got Dolby and we've got Lambert potentially.
Interesting. No pressure, guys. And then we've got 1 position in the women's marathon, so that's probably pressure on Narishka there, getting a podium there. And then we've got women's 10K 1 position. Is that Ella?
It'll be Ella Eastor, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then
don't write off Ella.
Don't write her off. And then in the men's 5K 1 position, so that's Minnie Smithy, right?
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah. Unless there's some rogue individual that Smithy's running up against. But no, that's good. I think we're pretty accurate there. I think we've
It's pretty exciting to see what's in store this Saturday. So be interesting to see. I mean, it will be much cooler than last year, so we might expect some quick times this weekend. So
yeah, and I don't think you or I have ever done this event, have we?
No, I've done Busso Marathon, but I feel like it was organised by different organisers. So I did that back in, I think, 2019. It was in the middle of the year, so I don't think that was the Busso Runners Club. So yeah. So I've never done it. I think when I did it that year, it was 4 laps of a 10K distance. It was in the middle of winter, so it was pretty rough conditions. But pretty exciting. That was my sub 4 hour marathon. It was my second marathon.
Nice, well done. So you went from a 4:45 to a sub 4.
Still walked the last 5Ks. So that was the time where I started doing long runs for the first time, and then just went out quick. I went out 5-minute Ks. I was expected to finish in 3 hours 45 minutes. Was flying until the 30K mark, and just surprise, started cramping. So it was a tough afternoon there. Yeah, pretty excited to see what's in store. Are we going to mention Crap's call out about them not appearing?
They've asked us to. They did mention that we haven't asked them to preview it, but I thought we did a pretty good job. So we'd love to have them on the podcast. If Hayden and Shannon, if you're listening, don't leave us on red. We'd certainly like to have you on. We'll just see what happens over the next few weeks. We've got a very busy schedule, Simon. You and I know that. So if anyone wants to see it, we can show you the exchange of texts as to how many guests we've got coming up in the next 8 weeks. So
I thought you were going to say we'll show the screenshots of them leaving us on red and them not responding to us.
Well, yeah, we've already said it now. So once we've said it, we can forget it.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our interview this week.
Yeah. Look, as you mentioned at the top of the episode, this week we had Sam Simsek on, business manager of the Running Centre at West Perth and self-confessed sneakerhead. Here is our interview with Sam. All right, as you all know, we have our community run this coming Friday, hosted by the Running Centre, or TRC as it's affectionately known. Our guest today is the business manager at TRC with 20 years in the athletics footwear industry and a face and name many will recognise in the Perth running community. Sam Simsek, thank you for joining us on the WA Running Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm pumped. We get to talk about sneakers and all the cool things that are happening in running at the moment.
Very excited, Sam. It's not often we get to talk about shoes. I mean, we do have a few running jokes in between the two of us, but it'll be good to hear from an expert. So, in terms of, I guess, where your background is, Sam, you're obviously a sneakerhead. Where did the obsession start for you?
Oh, mate, this is going back to the mid-90s, you know, and you know, I've really got into shoes through culture of hip-hop and street arts and really, you know, going back into those 92, 91 basketball era, which everyone knows as the All-Star team. And I just got immersed in it. And then from there, it was really just a love for shoes. And look, my old man started a digital marketing company pretty much around the time when the internet first started becoming available to people. And one of the contracts he got was with Nike and Rebel Sport. And in those days, Rebel Sport, you know, you had to wear a pinstripe shirt and slacks with a belt and black leather shoes and gel your hair back and yeah, you know, it wasn't so much of a customer service sort of role. It was mainly sort of help yourself and if you're around, you know, you can sort of give you assistance. But yeah, look, I started photographing some of the samples from Old Man to digitize them essentially, and look, it was around the time when Nike Alpha Project sort of became Nike's sort of research pinnacle products, you know, at the time. And they were mucking around with lots of different sort of PSIs in air bubbles and like tuned air and trying to stabilize air. I mean, those days EVA foam was real, like it was light, but it wasn't soft, not like it is today. And so you needed things like air units and wave plates and what about going back into early days of Brooks, the Hydroflow, which was fluid. Yeah. And even LA Gear. I mean, I don't know if you remember the Larry Johnson the commercials going back, you know, with the React Juice. And boy, did those come back in drones. I mean, for leakages and all sorts of stuff. But look, so yeah, I got hooked up with a job through that position with Rebel. And I started off with them, and I got trained by an old cat at the time, forgot his name, but he sort of really started showing me a world of how technical footwear can get, and it was more than aesthetics at this point. You know, who's the shoe for? What's the designer or the brand? You know, who are they speaking to, and who do they want their shoes to be worn by? You know, and I was just, you know, going up and down the aisles, wanting to fit everybody that was coming in through the front door, and it just got to a point where I just thought, let's move on. I want to try some different avenues, and I moved into Foot Locker, and the majority of my background is purely in Foot Locker. Moved up from a casual sort of role into management, and then lots of other management roles within Sydney City. There wasn't any running specialty stores those days. We were it, and same with Athlete's Foot. And you know, a lot of the technical knowledge was, you know, reps coming in and talking about shoes and you know, giving their interpretation of, you know, more technical sort of, I guess, product components. Not so much, you know, talking about runners per se. And there weren't, you know, I mean, there were some diehard runners. I mean, I remember people used to come in with sweatbands, and they'd be all, jogging on the spot, almost like it's a pit stop, before during their run, they've come in. And I remember this one guy. I measured his foot, and I'll never forget. He started stretching before a shoot, before me measuring his foot, and I thought, wow, this guy is like full on. And anyway, I got him in some Brooks Trance, a model from Brooks that's not available anymore, but was very popular those days, and even early days Kayano. I mean, how many Kayanos did I sell in those days? My God. We're going back to Kayano 4, Kayano 5. I mean, now these are in hype DC and a lot of casual sort of lifestyle shoes. And then they were high-tech running shoes those days,
Yeah, definitely.
And it was Duomax, Duomax, Pronation this and Pronation that. And you got every shoe had support those days. Nothing was neutral at all. And we've come a long way from then. Oh boy, can I tell you, yeah.
So going through your career there with shoes, what would be your all-time favourite shoe over those years?
Oh, I get asked this all the time. Yeah. It's a juicy question. And I can never answer it because there's always another one that I love more than the last one.
Yeah.
And never stops. We're always, us sneakerheads, and I'm a bit of a running shoe geek as well. So we mixed together. And shoes are evolving, and we're all looking and seeking for that ultimate pair that we love. And it's funny. It's like, oh, I love this shoe, but I wish. It's like, oh, okay. And then another shoe, it's like, no, they changed that. I love that, but I wish they did this. And we're always on the search. But, the good thing is it's always forward, and thank God we're not going backwards.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we'll ask the question maybe in a different way, Sam. Maybe not your favourite all-time, but we'll give you three options. Kiss, marry, kill of shoes. Maybe it doesn't have to be all-time. It could be anything that's available at the moment, but maybe a shoe that you love desperately, a shoe that you'd spend your rest of your life with, and a shoe that perhaps you don't like so much.
All right. Well, look, I've got a pair of Nike Air Mags, which is basically the Back to the Future shoe.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so look, they were going for about $5,000 a pop, and I could tell you I ate 2-minute noodles for about 6 months to buy those, and I kept telling myself they're going to a good cause, but they're probably worth a good $20,000 now, probably even more. I haven't even checked, but yep, shoes are like fine wine, and they don't store well. Let me tell you, they do fall apart even in thin air. After 20 years, I've had lots of shoes just turn to dust, unfortunately. So anyone that's collecting shoes, wear them, don't store them, love them, enjoy them, all the good stuff. But look, mags, I would definitely get buried in them.
Yeah, right.
So let's go the other way. So and someone has to turn the lights on as they put me in as well. So and then what else? Look, you can't go past the. What else do I like the most? Look, currently I really like the Nova Blast, and this is how the universe works. Me and Raf, the business owner of the running centre, we were in Austin, Texas last year for the running event. And ASICS was putting together a really cool shindig at a taco place. And basically it was them wanting to showcase the Nova 5. They were just releasing it, and I've never tried it. I've seen the sample, but I never got my size and went for a good run with it, So Raf went to the cross country classics, and I was like, yep, I'm going to go to this ASICS thing and check it out. It was about 4Ks away from the hotel, and I thought, oh, look, that'll be a good warm up. And so I ran there, and during my journey running to this taco place, I saw this tiny Japanese guy by himself running across the street, and I figured, look, there's not too many people running along this street at this time in the morning, so I feel as though he's probably going to the ASICS thing. So I crossed the road, and I said, how are you going? Where are you going? You going to the ASICS thing? He said, yes, I am. And we got chatting, super humble guy. And it turns out he was the designer of the Super Blast and the Nova Blast.
Oh, no shit.
And I was like, what? That's incredible. I was like, okay, well, where do we start? I'm pretty sure he was like, all right, just shut up. I don't want to talk anymore, but I just wanted to keep talking to him. And one of the big things that he said that he wanted to achieve with that shoe was balance. And basically it was a balance between a shoe that you can, do some long runs in, and a shoe that you could do some sort of faster stuff in. Basically a bit of a Swiss Army knife shoe, And I feel like they've nailed that. It really, for most people, it's a really good shoe, and it's light and bouncy. So look, let's chuck that into the lineup, and look, I'm not much of a racer, so I'm not into my carbons like a lot of people are. I appreciate them, but they're just not for me. I'm more of a social runner. I like to talk and just experience running, and even the mental health benefits of running in general is really the reason why I like to run with people all the time. So it's like my time, So I'm just sort of not running or racing, not interested in that space. But look, another one that I've sort of got is the Nimbus, the good old faithful Nimbus. It's soft, it's squishy, and it reduces my risk of injury. I could do lots of miles in it, and it's just fantastic shoe for me. And then some other ones. Oh, Puma Suedes. Puma Suede Classics. I've got some MTV ones, which MTV, the music TV show, and they did a collaboration. And these things are so colourful and out there and of that era. I just absolutely love them. And but look, I've got lots of favourite shoes. I love design. I really look at shoes like art, and maybe a bit of a different perspective than most people see them as functional tools, which they are, particularly in running. But they're also much more than that for some others. So.
I grew up skateboarding, Sam, and that in skateboarding world, like fashion and shoes are a massive thing there too, right? So, but at the time, I feel like I would never have been caught in a pair of running shoes because, from my perspective, running shoes were dorky, right? But these days, I mean, I don't know, maybe I've matured or something's happened. Maybe the running scene's gotten a bit trendier, but it seems like there are a lot of really sick colorways and different features in shoes now that there weren't, say, 15 years ago. When you mentioned a few shoes there, like the Nova Blast, the Super Blast, the Nimbus, what is it that you look for in a shoe? Like a running shoe, are you looking at a particular kind of stack or a fit or some colorways that kind of sing to you when you're looking at shoes?
Look, the most important part of any sort of shoe prescription is really understanding what you're going to use it for, right? You've got to see them as tools. If we're looking at running shoes, so you need the tool for the job. Okay, so there's a lot of people that I see, even just seeing through the store, and it's a bit of a trend. There's a lot of young people just buying carbon shoes, and they're just getting into running. And look, if they're comfortable, that's fine. I get it, but those sorts of shoes are generally not a shoe to be worn, for just a nice relaxed trot. And building, some miles under the foot, I mean, if you look at it, your feet has got 26 bones and over 200 ligaments and muscles, holding together. So it's an engineering masterpiece. And if you put 2 feet together, I mean, that makes 52 bones, and almost makes up 25% of your skeleton, which is a big deal. It's really important. And so getting a shoe that's really stiff like that is certainly not letting your foot move in the motion that it was designed to, right? So this is where shoe rotation also comes into play, and because of those little intricacies of different changes in shoes and mass, that's going to basically reduce risk of injury by up to 26. I think I read an article the other day that said 36% by just having a shoe rotation, which is and it makes sense. Every shoe loads a foot differently, and we don't eat the same, we don't train the same. Our running programs aren't exactly the same every day either, and variety is key. And but look, what I think is important, generally, and how I found these shoes for me is I just try a lot of pairs on. Every shoe that comes in through this shop, I will try it on, and I'll go for a run on a treadmill, and that way I can start to develop a taste, or actually no, not a taste, a comfort. Comfort is the most complex, actually, thing, because what I find comfortable, you guys certainly are not going to find comfortable. And when customers tell me what they find comfortable, the next person tells me something completely different. It's not always running in the same formula at all. And so this is why it's really important, to try a lot of shoes on. Don't get caught up into hype. I know it's hard, you're seeing what your friends are wearing, you're hearing, all these reviewers talking about their own perspective on what they like in a shoe, and then there is no 2 feet alike, and you just got to go by what you feel is comfortable. And going into a store that has a treadmill, or a running specialty store, such as us here at the Running Centre, we give basically multiple shoes to people to try, that are correct for what they're wanting to do with it. And they literally, they figure it out. It's very intuitive, actually. Once you start to go for a run in it, you're like, yeah, that one just doesn't feel right. That one feels soft but sinky, and that one feels really firm and responsive. I sort of like it, but this one feels great, and I love watching it. I think it's quite a special moment when people make their choices up, because it's like they found it. It's the one that's going to carry them to their marathon.
I recall when I first got into running, because I did work in West Perth, so I did pop by the running centre, and I think at the time I thought it was really bizarre that one of the first things one of the store attendants made me do was actually run on the treadmill, and for them to actually see what my running style was like, and then from there provided 4 different types of shoes for me to try on and to just run on the treadmill with. I thought that was like such a bizarre experience at the time, because I was so used to going to a Rebel Sport or an Athlete's Foot and just almost guessing what I think I liked, and then almost paying the price a bit later when, you go home, you go on different runs, and then you realize, oh my God, I've made the worst decision in a shoe. But you guys actually took a bit of care in at least giving me a variety of shoes to try and go, look, really comes down to you in terms of what your preference is. So I thought that was really cool. And I guess as you were talking about, variety, do you find that that's an important element of the running centre, or like the experience for people buying shoes at the store?
As opposed to just offering variety to people?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, our buying process, actually, this is probably a really good conversation, because I think people don't really understand this aspect. But when a lot of retailers purchase shoes, okay, we buy them almost 12 months to 13 months out, okay? Okay, so if something's red hot because of a review or something like that, like let's give the super comp an example. Okay, I mean, people are just like, I don't understand why they're so hard to get. I've been everywhere, and I've got a line out the door, ready in the morning to buy a pair of Super Blasts on release date. It's almost like sneakers here, and then they're sold out in 5 minutes. I mean, another one was the Saucony Endorphin Speed for the minted edition. There's some seriously hyped shoes out there, and people are lining up. But when we're sitting in an office 12 months, in advance, no one's got a crystal ball to sort of go, okay, we're going to buy an unlimited amount of these shoes because this is going to be the hot shoe of the season, It's basically, most people or good businesses probably look at it more into more historical data, and you can start to see a little bit of a pattern of, what people are liking and how things are evolving, and then we start to put our eggs in buying more in those areas, right? For example, like plated shoes. There was a period where, really elite guys were buying them, and so that wasn't a big volume of sales. I mean, not everyone's an elite runner, so they're not. There's not a huge demand for carbon plated shoes. But now everyone's racing. Everyone wants to get faster, and everyone wants a carbon plate shoe. And now there's not an abundance of stock out there to support those people, that want a pair. And so the big thing, I guess, there is, I mean, we buy so far in advance, and we try to sort of, I guess, sort of get that seasonality correct in terms of buying the right things in the right amounts. But, things sell out and things change all the time. Super trainers are massive now. They're almost, I think, I mean, lightweight. No one's buying lightweight trainers. Everyone's buying, super trainers and volume trainers and daily trainers. I mean, daily trainers is just going off at the moment, particularly with run clubs. It's almost like the perfect shoe, right? I mean, you're doing 5 to 10 Ks, each run a few times a week. You want something light and responsive. Let's go. Max 6 speeds. Puma deviates. I mean, these are great shoes for majority people, and then you got people that are sort of getting into marathons and half marathons, and they're needing a volume trainer now with their dailies, because let's face it, for a 5k 10k, unless you've got you want a really soft shoe, most people are going to want something light and adaptable. And this is where we are, and super critical foams are just so amazing. They feel so lively on your feet. It's almost like crack. Not that I know what crack feels. Tastes like. I've never had a crack.
That's what people say.
But that's what people say. But honestly, I mean, I don't know if you understand what supercritical foams are or what they mean. But what they are, basically, a polymer, basically with a supercritical fluid that's sort of injected into this mix, and then they compress it with either carbon monoxide or nitrogen, and they basically compress it and smash it until it gets to its absolute critical point. So these foams just feel amazing, and they're so bouncy and responsive, unlike anything else. And but they don't last huge mileage,
very long.
So if you're going to use those as your daily driver, you're going to be seeing me or some of these other stores quite regularly to get a replacement, And I mean, thank God they all break down in the environment. I mean, there's millions of shoes being sold, and they back in the day, I mean, they used to take 50 years to degrade in the bin, and I think I've sold easily upwards of hundreds of thousands of shoes in my time. And it's a lot of responsibility there. So look, now they do break down in half the time. I think 10 to 15 years for most, and they are starting to use recycled materials through laces and uppers, and they're even putting different types of chemicals into the foam, which start to break down. Which I found out the hard way with all my collectible stuff. Which are all glad wrapped and in a human control room.
So let's get into your running journey for a second. So how did your origin story start when it came to running, and how has that evolved over the years, and particularly now as a business manager of the running centre?
Well, I did little athletics. And I mean, I was a Redfern, Sydney boy, and we didn't have a car. We were in a very, very poor to-do family. And I used to have to catch 2 buses in my little athletics gear. And I'm talking early 90s, like the shorts were almost like knickers.
Yeah.
And the singlets were tight. And I had my bib on. And I would be catching 2 public buses to get there. And I was very embarrassed. I remember just being really, really embarrassed on the ride back. People just like going, "What's this kid like? Why is he wearing undies on the bus?" But then, I really liked running. I hated shot put. I wasn't good at discus or javelin, but my favourite was hurdles. I really loved hurdles. And yes, somewhat, I really sort of got into running through that period, but then I stopped and rekindled my love when I was working in an office in Brisbane, Queensland. And the buyer of men's running was going for a run with the Puma rep. Oh no, New Balance rep. And he asked me to come along, and I was like, "Oh, geez, all right. Well, I do want a promotion, so I'll pretend that I was a runner, and I'll go." And if I had Nike Pegasus, I think at the time I was a bit of a Nike geek, and I was wearing Nike Pegasus, and then that's right. We started our run, and I reckon I was really getting gassed out around the 2K mark, and they absolutely just smoked me. And I just felt terrible, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go again the next day, and I'm going to give this a bit of a crack, and then I want to do basically in the entire Brisbane River without stopping. That was my goal, and I just got obsessed. I started doing one lap, then I'd do another lap, and then I'd just increase the mileage, and then I think my longest run at the time was a half marathon, and I was just absolutely loving running for a while, and then I sort of got into the product side of things as well, and started seeing all the new running shoes at the time, and it was just progressing. I think the Nike Free trend with the 5.0s and the 4.0s and the 3.0s were sort of becoming very popular as well. And I've got a really funny story about that, actually, about the Nike Free. If we got time, we can maybe reintroduce that. Oh, okay, let's go. So this guy, he came in, he was a customer, and this is in Sydney, and he came in, and he was dressed almost looking like a homeless bloke, and no one wanted to chat to him.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, he's just going to waste a bit of time." It's like, whatever. I was like, "Nah, I like interesting people, always have." And so, I walked up to him as a South African fella. He actually owned a big sporting athletic store in, I think, Johannesburg. And they couldn't get access to certain products in their region. So this guy was a bit of a parallel importer. And so he said to me, he goes, "Oh, how much are these shoes?" And I said, I think they were $179.95. And he said, "Okay, how many have you got?" And I was like, "What's your size?" And he's like, "Oh, no, don't worry about my size. Like, how many have you got?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll go out the back and I'll check." And I think I had about maybe 14 pairs. And I said, "Oh, I've got 14 in total." I was thinking, this is weird. And he goes, "Only 14. And I was like, "Well, how many do you need?" And he's like, "I'll buy as many as you have." And then I was like thinking, far out. Is this guy for real? Like, he wants to buy the entire company's worth of stock here. I'm seeing dollar signs and yachts and Rolls Royce. I'm like thinking, I'm going to have like such a great month. And so I called head office and I said, "Oh, look, I've got a fella that's wanting to buy this particular shoes. How many have we got, just by interest's sake?" And then like, you hear this like on the keyboard, and then they're like, we've got about 900 pairs. And I was like, "Whoa, all right, cool." And so I went back to the guy, and I told him, and he wanted to buy $45,000 worth of those shoes, and then the shop became a warehouse. Like, every store started sending now the Nike Frees to us, and we had to take them out of the box, lacquer the shoes together, and send the boxes separately because it was some sort of weird tariff thing. They could get away with them being not new if they were separated out of their packaging. So this guy's clearly worked it out, and I don't think it was his first time he's done this as well. But his name was Merrick. If he's listening to this podcast by any chance, thanks, mate. The commission was fantastic, and it was awesome. But so that was the Nike Free. But that was, I guess, sold to us as a recovery shoe. People would put those on after a run, but people wanted to load their feet up and use them a bit more like a more minimal shoe, and they had a bit of style. There weren't these big fat midsoles at the time. There was something different, and people lapped them up, and they were quite popular. But look, my running sort of has been sort of in and out since that time. I sort of done my long run, and I moved over to the Netherlands to work for Foot Locker in the Europe there, and boy, was that a ride? Far out, 14 countries, and every country had its own like laws, and like France, like they had auditing police that would go through the shop, and if you had a sale on, and you advertised a particular price, and that like 30% off sale or whatever, there had to be a specific amount of shoes in that store that had to be at 30% off, or you get fined, and then like Greece and the Canary Islands, I mean, you could send stuff in, but you couldn't send stuff out. And these were quite hot climates. So if you got it wrong, sending stuff, that's like winter stuff into Greece, like some idiots have done, there's no way you're going to get them out of there. Yeah, so you had to, sort of reduce them and hope some person from Switzerland is on a holiday and sees a ski jacket in Greece, for $20, and it's like, ooh, that's lovely. I'll buy that. Yeah. But and then sort of moved back here. I was running in the Netherlands until I slipped over on some black ice, and really, like, man, if you run on or slipped over on black ice, that is no joke. Like, you nail yourself so hard.
Yeah.
Like, I full smashed myself in a busy mall as well. Ooh. And everyone stopped and looked, and then I just got up and pretended nothing happened. Yeah. I was so embarrassed, and I just like kept running and like kept my composure until I turned around the corner, and then I was like doing the yeah. And that role particularly finished, and I ended up in Perth, and I wanted to stick with footwear, and I found Raph and Jason here at the running centre, and this is 10 years later. I'm still with the man, and I'm still helping the community here in Perth achieve their goals through getting some good proper footwear.
Yeah. So how did that route to Europe start then, Sam? I mean, obviously you were in Foot Locker, and you've maybe migrated over there as part of that company, or how did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I was doing such a good job in Australia, and I started getting noticed overseas, and I really wanted to sort of expand my knowledge of how we could operate in a complex market like Europe. And somewhat bring some of that knowledge back, and then start to sort of grow Asia Pacific for the guys. But like when you move from a big corporate company, well, what we think is big here, which is just a drop in the ocean, and then you go into somewhere like that. It's almost like a year 6 kid going back into year 7, and you're this old person, the star, and then you're also now back down the bottom, and you're trying to sort of move your way all the way back up as well. And bureaucracy is real, and you just got to learn to play the game in some of these bigger companies. And my passion purely was not really sitting down and looking at spreadsheets all the time. It really was products, and it was really human interaction. I really, really, really love working with people, and I love to hear their stories, and I like to match footwear that's literally perfect for their needs.
Yeah, no, and I think that story about Merrick kind of really shows it pays to just have a conversation sometimes, and even if someone might not look like the person you want to have a conversation with, sometimes it pays off big time. And I think that's something that Simon and I are finding doing these podcasts actually is just people that we interview. We find out so much about running through the people that we talk to. And, without doing this podcast, we probably wouldn't have that opportunity to do that. So I guess we're very grateful for that. Back to your running quickly. I think you did Sydney Marathon in 2023.
I did.
I saw your finisher photo actually, and it looked very similar to my finisher photo from last year. So I guess I wanted to ask you what your experience was like. It was very hot that year, will you do another one?
Chris, for my first marathon, that was spicy. That was spicy. I came across that line like I won it, because I'm pretty sure if that line was any further down the track, I reckon I would have just followed the light and just went home. It literally was insane. We started off really, really late, and you know, they had some teething issues that year. I mean, the toilets were one thing. You know, public urination was definitely on the cards for almost everybody, because I'm pretty sure for like 15,000 people, they had like maybe 8 portaloos. And
oh my goodness.
And, you know, there was a line, there was a seriously long line. And by the time I think people hit halfway through that line, the toilets were clogged. And they were really not operational anymore. And then the other sad aspect was everyone came in on trains, which is great. That's what you want. You want to encourage people to use the public transport to go to these events. But the trains were going past so full that they couldn't pick up the wheelchair people.
Right.
That's terrible.
So you know, normally they'll start the wheelchair guys first, and you know, I was looking behind me, and there were still people in wheelchairs trying to shoot past me around the halfway mark, and they were just like, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. I mean, they must have repeated that word that many times, and because everyone's wearing headphones and no one's really sort of aware what's going on, you know. And then it started to get really, really hot, and look, Sydney's not it's not an easy marathon by all means, because I mean, it's got quite a bit of hills and stuff like that, and it meant something to me because it was my old stomping grounds, and I thought, you know, how cool is it that I'm running through the city of Sydney, where, you know, I was a little rat bag. And I would have never in a million years thought I would be running a marathon. And here I am, just, you know, on this journey. And but yeah, it started to get hotter and hotter, and then they, just to break you, they decided to do this like hairpin turn like 4 times on the Eastern Distributor, where there's no trees but just hot tar, backwards and forwards. I literally thought I was in a time loop, like and I was seeing the same people again and again, like, and I was like, how? Oh my god, we need to get out of here. And then we got into Centennial Park. I've never heard a hamstring snap, but I heard a person snap his hamstring in front of me.
Oh my goodness.
And it, like, even when I close my eyes, I can hear it. Like, it is a really interesting sound, I could tell you. And you know, I started seeing all the people like collapsing around me. It was almost like a Saving Private Ryan, like sort of like a war movie, you know. And yeah, it was just nuts. And we got out of there, and I had to walk a little bit up this hill through Paddington. I was just like, I can't. And then it was my kid's birthday as well, and then I got emotional. I started like really crying deeply, like I didn't even know I could cry that deep, but I was like somehow reaching right into the darkest parts of my soul, like trying to think I was a horrible dad. How dare I be so selfish, going on a marathon on my daughter's birthday, and then all of a sudden it clicked to laughing and happiness, and then I was like, I think I'm having it was just like, she should be proud, you know, like, yeah, no, I'm not that dad that just sort of drinks piss on the couch and, you know, does nothing with his life either. So then I sort of turned that around and got back into a good mood, and it was just it was a journey, and I reckon everyone should experience it if they sort of can, you know. It's it doesn't matter how fast you go. It's just the achievement of getting to that end, and that journey of training is certainly an experience, and I can see why everyone in Australia at the moment is penciling one in.
Yeah.
You know.
So another one.
Yeah. Well, just because I'm probably crazy, I decided to do Sydney again this year.
Well, it's a bit earlier this year, so it won't be on your kid's birthday, which is good.
Exactly. So everything, I think this is hopefully this will be the run that I imagined when I was contemplating when I was training for the first time. So I think it'll be a better weather. They have improved. Well, they have to improve, being a major now. And you know, some of the things that I really, really hated are all sort of now improved. And I think now we're just getting a busload of Perth people going as well.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be a wild time. I think it's going to be great.
So.
I really can't wait. And then we get to, maybe we should do like one big Perth shakeout run, you know, and catch up down there and just enjoy it. Yeah, it should be good, I think.
Excellent. So earlier you talked about the running event in Austin, Texas, and it must have been a couple of months ago where you and Raf flew over to that event. I think for those that might not know about the running event, could you give us a breakdown of what that event is and how I guess your experience came about?
Yeah, look, I mean, me and Raf have talked about it for quite some time. I mean, we're in the industry, and for us, you know, it's imperative to sort of see what's going on and keep our finger on the pulse, you know, and obviously offer the latest and greatest to everyone here in Perth. And you know, we're so far away from all the action, and you know, it does take us almost a good sort of season to 2 seasons for us to sort of almost become on par with what they're doing. So it was really good to sort of, you know, shake out the cobwebs and sort of start to see what's new and you know, it's an industry based thing. You know, I mean, obviously there's people there that aren't in the industry as well for the expo if they want to have a look and see what's out there. I mean, every brand that you could possibly think of is in this expedition place. But then within that, you know, the brands will hold pre-lines. So this is how the Americans do it actually, and I think it's great. And I think it would be great if we could somehow do this in Australia. But in America, like for example, Brooks was really nice to include us into one of their pre-lines for a sell-in for second half of next year. So this is how far we're buying into, right? So when someone says the term "reading the room," I swear this is what it was like. Like me and Raph sat down, we got a catalogue, and they had their buyers, the category managers, and their designers. You know, basically showcasing what they've got for this particular season, and then they're talking about some of the inspiration, some of the tech, you know, improvements, and so forth, and so. All these stores that are sort of in specialty running, like us here, do their decisions there and then. And so everyone's like, this is the Ghost Max 2, or now all the 3. And, you know, they're like, what do you think? And, you know, we're looking around the room and you can see a couple diehard people getting really excited. You can see the look on their face. And then you can see some people crossing their arms going, yeah, boring, not interested. But you know, we had to do our orders before we went to the US, so we were a bit earlier, right? So we went in there. I mean, we've got somewhat of an idea. I mean, we've got some experts here. I mean, we've got physios, we've got Ben Green, biomechanic expert, and run coach. I mean, we've got myself as well with plenty of years experience, and even a plethora of runners that we get some feedback from. So we can put together a really good, compelling story for a season and offer that. But going into a pre-line once you've already placed, you know, you can't change your orders. You submitted them, you know. You can't say, oh, no, we should have done that. So it was good to see that we were pretty much on par. However, you know, for us, there might have been a few things that we said, maybe no to, but Brooks released this carbon shoe that's coming out, and you know the price has come down. They've always been on that really top end, so it's a little bit more competitive now, and they're playing it well with some new foams. I mean, in the past they were quite sort of firm-ish, but now they're getting quite pillowy soft, like a lot of the sort of super shoes out there and the racing shoes, and yeah, this particular one was getting a lot of legs. Like everyone was frothing at the mouth, saying, "Oh, this Hyperion, we got to get this." And so we came back and changed our order. and said, okay, let's get some of those in, and let's see, and get Brooks in the lineup too. But even things like Mizuno. I mean, look, Mizuno has always been very, very, very like safe with the Rider and the Inspire, and then the Sky and the Horizons, and look, in the earlier days, the Hitagami and the Sayonara, they had a really good lightweight category and a really good competition category, but they seem to have struggled to sort of keep up with, I guess, the tech compared to all the other brands until, recently now with the Neo Vista and the Neo Zen. I mean, these two shoes are now sort of, I think, starting to put Mizuno back on the map. I mean, these shoes, you could do it all as well. They're super light, very plush and responsive. You want a snappy plate Vista, you want a more natural feel that you could do all your runs in than the Neo Zen. So, they're really good too. And then what else? We caught up with On. That was really cool. Got to see the Cloud Boom Strike LS, which is that boot-looking shoe. Yeah. I got to chuck it on my feet finally, and it felt amazing. It really felt amazing, and the fact that they've worked out how to spray on an upper is an incredible. Crazy. And just shows how things are just progressing. So far, from what my understanding is, there's not a lot of those machines around, so they could only do a certain amount every time. So they're really expensive. But I think once technology starts to improve, these processes will eventually become a lot cheaper and work their way down into more commercial footwear. But yeah, seeing some of that tech like that was really, really cool. And then we saw some really crazy stuff too. We saw CEP, which is a German medical company, also wanted to throw their hat in the ring with a shoe that's a carbon shoe that's basically a shoe that you could do almost everything in as well. That was their first shoe release. Probably, I mean, our market here in Perth is so small. There's probably not really a niche customer that would buy that, so we didn't place that. But and then we went and saw Nike. To be fair, I mean, look, Nike's going to have to, I think, go back to grassroots. I mean, they've just appointed a new CEO. I mean, I think they moved along way too quickly and made some poor decisions, and it's resulted into gaps on shelves in retail spaces, and allowed brands like On and Hoka to really, really pick up some huge sales, because they wouldn't have had the chance to get into shelves if Nike were still in retail and taking up all that space. So they stuffed up. And now all these other brands like Puma's on fire. Puma. We checked out them, and we met up with Andy, which was awesome. That guy is an absolute legend. I don't know if you got a chance to see that interview with Raph talking to Andy about the Mag Max. That was the shoe that Brockman wore for his record-breaking run around the track. And he sort of gave us a little bit of the inspiration around that, and that was really cool. He's a very great guy, good person to chat to. Caught up with the Believe in Your Run guys.
Oh yeah.
So that was cool, having a chat with them, and then sort of catching up with them, and Kafuzi, another really cool blogger as well. Got a chance to sort of have a chat with him and get some pointers. And he was a very approachable guy too, very, very relaxed, and that guy is zen. Seriously, I mean, I want to, like, the way I chat is very chaotic. I'm like very passionate. I'm almost a bit like Steve Irwin when it comes to shoes. But he was so relaxed, and I'm trying to find that sort of zen moment where I could sort of get in sort of sync with him. I finally got there and chilled out, and then we got chatting about his career and what he's doing and stuff like that, and that was really cool. But geez, they throw some wild. They do everything big in Texas, I tell you. And they were wild. Like on through the most incredible event I've ever witnessed in running to date, outside of an Olympics. Look, it was in a car park on the top level. They had DJs, typical like on fashion. You know, they had some hip hop guys there. There's flamethrowers. You know, it was like an illegal street race. You know, and they had people running at full pelt, like sprinting down a parking lot. Like I thought someone was going to snap an ankle. You know, like trying to do that, and it was relays. And, you know, I found myself just on the sidelines and just like yelling, go, come on, let's go. Like I was getting involved and it was wild. I loved it. It was so electric. I would love to see something like that here in Perth. It'd be, I think everyone would enjoy that event. It'd be so cool. And apart from, mate, if you love American food, it's a winner. I mean, geez, I was pretty over Texan barbecue food by the end of that. I mean, they smoke everything there. Seriously, I'm pretty sure the soap is smoked. Your shampoo and your laundry detergent's smoked. They just love the good old smoke there.
Yeah. Simon's pretty partial to a burger. I think, Simon would like it there.
Yeah, no. Well, if you are going, next or this year, then you got to give me a ticket.
Oh, mate, absolutely. Well, it's going to be in San Antonio, so still in Texas, but they're moving it down closer to the Mexican border. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Terry Black's. Terry Black's is the place to be, mate. If you want a burger or some meat, that place was nuts. I'm pretty sure me and Raph ate there a lot.
We'll pencil that in.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam, you touched on a couple of shoes there with technology-wise, which it seems like every 6 months we see something now which is incredible. Like the Cloud Boom Strike LS was one of those things that kind of blew everyone away, especially with its kind of social media advertising and stuff. But yeah, as you mentioned, Puma are doing some pretty incredible things, and some of the more crazy looking shoes, you know, with like 2 or 3 plates in them, kind of really unusual stuff. But it must be really exciting for you, kind of seeing the running shoe evolve and people pushing the boundaries a little bit beyond what they probably did for the previous kind of decade. You know, it seems like that last 2 years have been massive.
Oh, mate, it has been really, really massive in that space. I mean, evolution of shoes, particularly sort of just after COVID, has gone gangbusters. I mean, I remember when New Balance showed us a shoe called the SC Trainer. And you know, to be fair, that was the first super trainer. There wasn't another one. And the way that New Balance sold that to us was that it was the cheaters shoe. They're like, look, we've got this shoe. It is well and truly over the legal limit in terms of stack height. But you know, maybe there would be a market of somebody that would want this shoe to just enjoy it, you know. And we placed some, and you know, I was a bit confused on who to sell it to. I mean, I thought, okay, an elite guy's not going to want that crap. They're just going to want a plated shoe, so they're not going to race in that. And then I thought a beginner guy is not going to want to spend that much money and on a shoe that's not going to last them that long either. So who is this shoe for? And then I realised, okay, so this shoe is for someone that wants another shoe in their rotation, that wants an experience, you know. And that's the thing; it's all about an experience. Every shoe gives a different experience, so it really doesn't matter if it's got 3 plates, unless you're going to podium. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, buy the shoe and enjoy it. And if it's going to get you some extra mileage, why not? You know, if it's going to get you some Strava segments.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be unfair to some and maybe fair to others. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I mean, look, it's been it kicked off a whole bunch of other. It kicked off another category called the super trainer. Finally got a name, you know. So people are now buying things like the Glycerin Max.
Yeah.
The New Balance SE, even the Mac X2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Super Blast.
Yeah.
You know, people don't care. They just want a shoe that feels good and want to go for a run, and they're willing to pay for it. That's been the biggest surprise for me. I mean, shoes are, you know, I thought 270 was a lot, you know, and then, you know, they started creeping up to $300, and then it's like 330, and I'm like, how much is this? Like 400. I'm like, surely who's going to buy that for 400? Sold out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and this is a shoe that's $700 from Adidas. You know, you can only wear it once for one event. Good luck trying to get a pair. So look, I mean, people are certainly willing to pay for an experience, and good for them. You know, I mean, there's a shoe for everyone. There's a shoe for every sort of type of training, and I think a lot of the involvements are coming through foam, as we're talking supercritical foam. You know, and even carbon plates are changing the way that they are as well. You know, I mean, you got carbon plates, composite carbon plates, you got PVAX plates, polyplastic PU, TPU plates. Got so many different plates, and you know, you got to understand these plates. They have to be in those shoes to offer somewhat structure, because if they were taken out, I'm telling you, it'd be like trying to balance on a balloon. Your ankles would just be like wobbling around, and there'd be literally no structure in those shoes whatsoever. So, I mean, that's why they're in there. So they're generally not a racing shoe, but look, a lot has changed in that in that period around tech. Look, I think the next evolvement in footwear is probably not going to be the most exciting for most. I mean, we're starting getting to a point like iPhones. I mean, how many shapes can you do in a phone, right? Until it's the same thing, a small upgrade every time. You know, I think we've pretty much hit it at the moment. I think the categories are starting to mature. And now what's going to happen is those big stack foams that look like a Hoka Bondi, you know, like they're going to work on trying to give you the feeling of a big stacked shoe, but in half the height. That's where it's going to go. So we're going to be going back down.
Back to basics, right?
Pretty much back to basics, and but just with a much more improved foam without it having to be so ultra stacked, you know. And that's what I think every brand's working towards. So you'll have your racing shoes will have small little tweaks and improvements here with weight reductions. I mean, Puma's got one that's going to be 170 grams. Their elite shoe. It is phenomenal. Like, I picked up this shoe, I put it on, and I was like, what the hell? Like, how are shoes getting almost as light as a track spike? It's incredible. And they were saying that this shoe can get you almost up to 400 to 500 kilometers. So that's nuts. That is seriously nuts. So yeah, look, I think things are still going to improve, but I think things will slowly start to slow down a little bit as the categories start to mature, and yeah, I think we'll just see it that way, and hopefully running will continue to grow for people, and it won't be just a fad. Hopefully they'll integrate it into their lives for a long time, and yeah, it'll be great.
I think one of a new category potentially that's coming in this year or next year that I saw pop up the other day was the carbon plated thong, which yeah. It
wouldn't surprise me. Oh, look, not everyone's got resilient feet like a Kenyan. But hey, why not? I mean, there was a guy in Tasmania that ran a marathon in a pair of Crocs, you know. If you really wanted to, I'm pretty sure you could run in a pair of Birkies as well if you really wanted to, you know. But yeah, look, people are always going to be trying to push the envelope for sure. I mean, I don't see why you would need a flip-flop, you know, carbon shoe, but you know, who knows? Maybe that might be another category. I'm excited to see that. It'd be cool.
Well, I mean, we do have Mitchell Gray, who seems to do crazy shit week in, week out. So yeah, it might be another one of his challenges. So you were talking about social community runs. So let's finish it up with our community runs and perhaps some of the shop runs that you've started to put in place. Talk to us about how these shop runs came about. And I know you're partnering with the Perth Social Runners and through On My Feet. So how did that come about? That sort of partnership.
Cool. So, look, before the big running boom, the running centre had their own sort of running club for many years. And we used to get like hundreds of people coming to these things, because, run clubs weren't really a thing. You go to the marathon club or you came and met at a running shop and you go for a run together. And it was social, right? It wasn't a race. You just catch up with people on a weekly basis and just shoot the wind. It was awesome. But, after the running boom, everyone started to do their own. And, we're all busy people and trying to do a good job with just really focusing on these run clubs. But, there's people that are really dedicated and that's all they want to do. And they just do such a good job, and there's lots of run clubs around Perth. Too many to name, to be frank. But we picked a few that have been, our partners for a long time. I mean, Perth Social Runners were pretty much an offshoot from Perth Urban Runners, which Pete started, probably 8 years ago or whatever. And On My Feet's another one. And to be honest, I've been homeless twice in my life, and I just wanted a place to just, be open and welcoming to people just having it a bit tough, and not feel alienated or separated. I mean, we all go through the shit, and some of us worse than others, and it's nice. And if running provides health and happiness, then come on down and share that, and it's great, and the stories that come from some of these social runs is really heartwarming and really good. So they've been always the two that we've done, and now we are bringing back the Wednesday run club, and Ronan, which is one of our young guns, is going to be taking that aboard, and so we're going to have a weekly run, free for everyone to come. And we're going to do some really exciting things like we are with you guys next Friday. We've got partnering with On. We're going to do some wear tests so people can come in and, try some shoes. I mean, this is the cool part about, wear tests. You don't have to buy them. But, if you're curious and you're like, oh, I've been hearing this Swiss brand and I'm starting to see a lot of people wearing them, on the track or on the road, or particularly at the airport. I think it's almost a must if you're a traveller to have a pair of On. But you get a whole sample bag of shoes from, Monsters to Eclipse to Flyers, and just take a pair for a stroll and see if they're for you. I mean, you don't get that opportunity to just go for a run in a pair of shoes. I mean, certainly with us, we've got treadmills. You can try them. It's not the same. You really want to just go for a good 5K run in a pair and start to see what they really feel like. Do you really like them? Do they pinch? Do they? So that's good. And then we might even throw a deal here or there. And you get that runner's high. You're like, all right, everybody gets 20% off. Let's go nuts. Who knows? And but look, mate. The success of any sort of running specialty store is purely community. We're really, really lucky here in Perth. I mean, we've got some really good run specialty stores. You've got Bruce here at Keep On Running. You've got Dwayne at Tribe and Trail. You got Chris at, Running Works. You got us here at the Running Centre. We're just small businesses that just love the community, love the sport, and just want to do the right thing by the customers and just keep the sport alive. So make sure you all go and support these small businesses. You might spend $20-$30 more. But you know what? A pod or a physio costs way more, and so. That $30 you're saving could cost you hundreds more in the long run. So, give us all the support and come on down. Yeah.
That's great, Sam. Probably a great way to end the show too. So, Sam, thank you so much for sharing your stories today.
My pleasure.
We are super excited for next Friday. I think you're not going to be there, unfortunately, but we hope to catch you at the next one.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Sam Simsek, thank you for joining us on the WA Running Podcast.
My pleasure, Simon. My pleasure, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. I love talking shoes. So if you ever want a segment for shoes, you know how to hit me up.
Definitely.
Sounds good.
We'll get you back.
A massive thanks to Sam for sharing so much knowledge and experience with us on a Saturday afternoon. He certainly lived up to his reputation as an amazing bloke and an expert when it comes to running shoes and running shoe tech. So looking forward to popping into the running centre soon and saying hello to Sam. Simon, do you want to give us a rundown of the upcoming events?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of events over the next month. That begins with the Perth Trail Summer Series. That's on the next day after the Busso Bay Run. So that's on Sunday, the 9th of February down in Wollongong Regional Park. Got the Johnny Walker Green Label, Blue Label and Black Labels. So 5.2Ks, 10.5Ks and 15.6Ks across the event there. And then we've got the Marathon Club John Forrest Trail Run, which is also on the same day. With distances in the 13K and 5K. We've got the Yabaroo Trail Run, which is on Saturday, the 15th of Feb, when you get sent to the doghouse by your partner. So that's distances in the 50K, 25K, 15K, 10K, 5K. And then we've got the Running Works Lark Hill Ultra, which is on Saturday, the 1st of March. Seems like there is a 3K loop and there's distances that range from a 3K kids spree all the way down to a 50-mile race. So imagine doing 50 miles on a 3K loop. It's a lot of loops.
Yeah, well, it says here, so there's the mega multi-stage Rager for 50 miles, which my understanding is that's 80 kilometers.
Yeah.
But there's also a 100-kilometer blowout. So,
yeah.
I want to know what the Rager is. If the 100K is the blowout, what's the Rager? I'm sure it is a party. I've seen photos. It looks great. But I couldn't see myself running a 3-kilometer loop. But look, in saying that, we've been given promo codes, Chris, to all the listeners listening. The first 10. We'll start again. The promo code is WARP, WARP. That's WARP for $50 off your entry. And the first 10 users of that code will get a free pair of Steigen socks. So pretty good deal. I mean, the Steigens are probably going to set you back $30, right? So you're getting $50 off and you're getting a pair of $30 socks. So that's really $80 worth of value there. So thanks to Chris for sharing that with us and our listeners. But I did hear on the Casual Runners pod this week that they also had a discount code, and theirs was slightly more difficult to remember. It's Casual Runners Pod. Lot more letters, right? Whereas ours is 4 letters.
Just 4 letters.
Yeah.
4 letters. Easy. I mean, I do love my socks as well. So
yeah, exactly. That might get you into the 3-kilometer kids spree.
Yeah, I might sign up. So there might be only nine entries left by the time this episode comes out. It would be good to get Chris on over the next couple of weeks to talk through the upcoming Lark Hill Ultra, but also some of his races that he's got stalled. So it seems like he's got a couple over the next couple of months there. And then finally, we've got the Perth Track Classic that's also on the 1st of March. The early bird tickets have come out over the last couple of days. So we were just having a look at the website, and it seems like early bird tickets are only $5, an absolute bargain.
Yeah, snap them up, fellas and ladies. And I suspect there will be food trucks there. I'm going to put it out there that there's going to be food trucks. If they're not, you can't blame me. But if we can get that banh mi and those ice creams again, and they can racially profile you and I again, then that would be great.
Yeah, amazing. Well, hopefully get an ice cream. So let's move on to our WARP admin. So we've got our training block series coming up to cover the Bunbury Running Festival. So that's a 4-part series that will be starting to record, must be next week. So that series is sponsored by Bix Nutrition. And I think last week we said we locked down 3 athletes competing in the Bunbury Marathon, but now we've got 4 in total now. So 3 that will be doing the marathon coming up, and then 1 that's doing the half marathon. So that's really exciting. We've got 2 locals part of the series as well, and we've got 2 from Perth. So it'll be interesting to follow their journey as they prepare for their respective distances. So what we'll do over this week is reveal who our athletes are, and then hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll release episode 001.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We've been thinking about it for a while, and it's kind of scary that it's coming up because, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, our wives were talking about how much time we spend on this podcast, and another night of the week is certainly going to add a bit of stress for a few months. But
does Maddie know that Wednesday night is a record night for the special series?
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other exciting news that we've got is you and I, Simon, will be on the ABC tomorrow. So, I mean, the listeners, if they pick this up in the morning, if our episode comes out tomorrow, depending on how quick you are with the editing this evening, we're going to be on the ABC radio tomorrow from 3:30 p.m. Talking about, I guess, this podcast and our journey into running and how we kind of came to be at the reins of this mothership that is Warp. So yeah, looking forward to that chat. Should be interesting.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. We'll be, I think we'll be covering some of the, I guess, statewide type races. So pretty timely with the Busso Bay Run this coming week. And then we can talk about the Bunbury Running Festival that's in April as well. So looking forward to it. I don't know how we're going to go with this radio interview, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hopefully we remember to answer the phone. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. And then finally, we've got the community run that's happening this Friday. So Friday, the 7th of Feb, a 6 a.m. start, but get in early because we've got the wear test with On Running, along with Vlad down there with some Bix nutrition goodies as well. Anything more about the community run?
I think, no, I'm pretty sure that's it for us for now. We've already planned the next one pretty much. So hopefully this one's a big success. We'd love to see a few more people down this time. We'd like to see, a whole bunch of new faces that we haven't met before. And, being at 6 o'clock, you could come down for a jog. And then if you're working in the city, then all you have to do is go and have a shower. You're ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. I think in Sam's interview, I'm pretty sure that made it to the final cut. He spontaneously said 20% off. So we'll see.
Hold him to it. Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see if that's true this Friday. All right. Yeah, so let's wrap the episode up with our weapons of warp.
Yeah, let's do it. We've got a couple of weapons this week. I'm just going to quickly mention Matt Neves. He's already run 1,000 kilometers for this year, and we've barely clocked 5 weeks. So that's some seriously impressive running, Matt. We'd love to know what you're training for. I think we'll have to get in touch and potentially have you on the pod again sometime in the future. No doubt there's some kind of FKT or some incredible, long distance run that you're training for. Or maybe you just really like the outskirts of Ellenbrook. So we'll just have to wait and find out. I saw something come up this week, which is really good to touch on. I won't mention this person's name, but thank you for highlighting this. We've seen, I guess this person highlighted some toxic behavior from male runners who when they get overtaken by a female runner, and that female runner may just be on their, easy run, their morning jog. For some reason, some blokes have to then overtake that female because it insults their masculinity and they want to protect their ego, which is really quite pathetic. And so the exchange that this person was having with this other bloke was that, she'd run past him, he'd kind of overtake, and then she'd run past him and he'd overtake. And that's, I'm sure, pretty uncomfortable for any woman running on the road. Blokes like that are the reason women feel unsafe out there, unfortunately. It's an issue that is a big problem. Boys, cut it out, suck it up. Your balls are still there. It's going to be okay.
Well said. Well said. I think we'll leave it at that. We've actually got a huge increase in Instagram followers in the last week. So it must be the BM running interview that we had in the last week with some young'uns. So we might hit 1,000 over the next week, which phenomenal numbers. It means that we're getting just slowly closer to Jack Crago's 30,000 followers there on Instagram.
Well, I feel like there's a couple of interviews we got coming up in the next few weeks that might boost us up even higher side, depending on how those go. So I don't know if
Jack, watch out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Our Strava group is Warp, and our email is wrunningpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to us this week on episode 064, and we'll catch you next week.
See you guys.